in Charlottesville, Albemarle, and in Central Virginia. We'll continue the discussion from Wednesday, a show that was extremely well watched by industry insiders. And we have even more information to relay to you as Keith has seen a couple flat fees.
It was 1-0 and 1 flat.
One flat fee offered for buyer's representation and 1-0 compensation offered for buyer's representation.
And
I'm hearing another one's coming.
Yeah, and those two went to 2 eggs very quickly.
Went to 2 eggs very quickly. So we'll talk about that today on the program. Bill McChesney, welcome to the show. Thank you kindly for joining us. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you are watching. Agents continue to watch the program. Agents, if you want to relay some commentary, put them in the feed. Michael Guthrie, thank you for watching the program. Woody Fincham, thank you for watching the program. Dean Russell, thank you for watching the program. Neil Williamson, thank you for watching the program. Ray Cadell, thank you for watching the program. Ellie Tucker, thank you for watching the program. Real estate investors all over the show right now.
So for my
Seth Liskey, hello. Trip Stewart, hello.
For my fellow real estate professionals, if you have a comment or question and wish to stay anonymous, please put that in the feed to start off, and Jerry will keep your name anonymous.
Logan Wells Kalelo, welcome to the program. I see folks at Long & Foster, Nest, Howard Hanna, Real Estate 3, Frank Hardy, Yes Realty Partners.
They should be out selling.
Watching the program right now. I see 2 closing attorneys, 5 real estate investors, a couple of finance folks in the finance business, and a handful of electeds watching the show right now. J-Dubs, it's the Friday edition of Real Talk with Keith Smith. We can rock and roll when you're ready. Good Friday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us today on Real Talk with Keith Smith. We're live in downtown Charlottesville on Market Street in the I Love Seville studios, a show that airs wherever you get your social media and your podcasting content. Today's program continues the discussion of the decoupling of commissions and the settled lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors. Keith Smith's Wednesday show was sizzling hot, and I see industry insiders galore on the broadcast today. If you'd like to relay commentary, ask a question, put them in the feed. We will relay them live on air. Next week we have Katie West and Bill Tucker of
a week from today.
Charlottesville Settlement, a week from today, to talk this topic and how brokers should move forward from a compensation standpoint.
Yeah, they're going to speak. Bill's going to particularly speak from a real estate attorney's perspective. You know, kind of what has to happen, and we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into what's actually happening out in the Pacific Northwest. But we'll dive into that a little bit later in the show. We've got an actual case study out there that you can take a look at where the decoupling happened in 2022 and how is that doing out there. So we'll take a little deeper dive into that. I'd like to kick off. I've been tracking now since Friday, day over day, you know, what's kind of going on with actives, pendings, and price reductions. So Judah, if you don't mind putting slide number 3 up, we'll kind of kick off with that. When Judah gets it up, which everybody's going to be looking on the screen. Thank you, Judah. Thank you for putting your microphone in front of you, buddy. I appreciate that. I like the voice of God every once in a while to come into my hearing aids here. But what this is a comparison of the last 7 days for 2022, 2023, and 2024. And it's really interesting. You know, it looks at actives, how many homes came on the market in the car footprint, how many price changes got changed in the same 7 days over a 3-year period, same group of 7 days, and the pendings. And it's really interesting. So you take a look at the pendings. The pendings been pretty much right around 100, right? 103, 102, 96. So that means contracts the same pace of contracts have been kind of there. The actives were back somewhere around 2022 mark. 2023 was down to 65 substantially. I didn't do the percentage. But take a look at the price change difference between 2022 and this 2024. It's almost 50%, almost half.
I have a reason why that's, but go ahead.
No. I did this data pretty quickly this morning, and this is something I'm going to continue to do. And then a little bit later, I actually took a look at what buyer brokers are been offering since this announcement.
Put that slide on screen. Look at the middle column. Price changes. 2022, 71. Actives, $113. Put that slide back on. Price changes in 2024, 38. Actives, 101. What was the difference between 2022 and 2024 at this point?
It was, I didn't do the math on it, but in 2022, it was 71 price changes.
No. The interest rate environment.
Oh, definitely, way different, right?
Way different.
Yeah, we're considerably high. I didn't get a chance to pull
considerably higher
pull
now
for the week.
So
Yeah.
if you're an owner,
I want to say 2022 was probably in the 4s, but I'd have to Google.
If you're an owner and you come to market in 2024, and you have an interest rate that you secured prior to COVID that is historically low, why would you adjust your price as opposed to trying to pursue the highest equity payout possible? When you know if it doesn't work out, you just stay in your house and you keep the lowest interest rate possible and the lowest payment possible.
So quick search on that, average for this week was around 3.75 in 2022.
So you're talking a 2x difference.
Approximately. Yeah.
This is literally what I'm going through right now.
Yeah. So your argument for price change is over the difference of interest rates? Is that
Why,
what you're-
exactly.
Yeah.
Why would somebody that goes to market today, that has their house listed today, that is looking, if you're going to list your house, you're going to look for a payday. Your whole focus on listing your house is cashing out as much equity as possible.
So I look
because you're buying in an extremely more expensive environment and a higher interest rate environment and a higher monthly payment environment. So you would stay with your listing price that you came out of the gate longer, because what's the worst case scenario? You just have a lower monthly payment with the lowest interest rate possible.
And maybe the prices are now starting to get right? So that's the other side of that coin, right?
Also another reason why someone would be hesitant to change their price.
So
eventually the Fed is going to adjust the rate and rates are going to get lower.
So this is something new that I've started. So I'm going to be doing this week over week, and every Friday we're going to kind of start looking at this and saying, okay, what's the actives over the last 3 years? What's the price changes over the last years? And what's the pending? What I found the most interesting about this was the pendings are all, we're selling the same volume. This is homes that went under contract in the last 7 days. They're pretty darn close. I mean, they're within a few points of each other on that. But the price change, I thought, was a huge drop. But the actives, the homes back on the market, we're back roughly around the 2022 market. So I just thought we'd kick the show off with that before folks start wanting to talk about the NAR settlement. So
I just don't see sellers motivated to cut list price.
yeah, that could be it too.
Why would you cut your list price
Well,
when you can just hold and maintain a more affordable rate secured before COVID, also knowing down the road that the Fed is going to eventually cut rates?
Or the buyer, the seller, doesn't have anything to buy. So we're going to keep our price at a certain point right now. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't.
If I don't, I just have the cheapest situation possible.
I stay where I are.
Yeah.
But you got to remember our 5Ds we talked about, right? On Wednesday.
That's not everybody, though. And that's the first time I heard it. Let me see if I can get them. Death.
No.
Diamonds.
That's the last one. So
divorce.
It's diamonds.
Death, diamonds, divorce.
Diamonds, diapers.
Diapers.
Well, it's kind of important because it's going that way, right?
Diamonds, diapers, divorce.
Downsizing.
Downsizing, death.
And death, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is, if you take a hard look at it, that is the majority why people buy and sell. It's either one of those or a series of those. But you're 100% right. The market, the Keith and Jonas Smith don't have to move. I don't have to move, right? You don't have to move, right? Right?
If I do move, the only motivation to move would be capitalizing on the significant equity available. And if you cut the price, that significant equity becomes lower.
Well, it's an ever climbing thing, right? Because as price start going up, what you're looking at is also going up.
Right.
Right. So, but yeah, unless you find, Keith is, just to talk about Keith and Yona, right? I could sell my house now. I could do very well on it because I'm one of these nasty boomers, right? But, I have to make a decision. Do I want to go ahead and spend more money? Because I would end up spending more money.
Especially when you know eventually, and Jay Powell in the national news in the middle of the week, 3 rate cuts he alludes to this year.
But he's been talking
They're
about
going to be on the back end of the year because inflation is remaining sticky.
Yeah, you're not going to see that.
So we're not going to see that. Initially, we were talking about rate cuts as early as Q2. That ain't happening.
I think I may be wrong on this, and I'm definitely not an expert, and we don't have crystal balls out. You're probably going to see some of that happen just before the election, somewhere in the beginning of the third quarter. I would think you're going to start seeing that. Don't know if that is just the way the cookie's crumbling or there's other political reasons for that, but I think you're going to start seeing some of that drop, and it's only going to increase, this whole market thing.
Rob Neal, welcome to the broadcast. Brandon, one of the fantastic real estate photographers. Harrop, welcome to the show. You got Gary Palmer watching the program right now. You got a boatload of insiders and sharps watching the show. The sharps are out right now.
Yeah. So let's go to slide number 2. I probably will get myself a little bit into trouble with this, but we're going to do it anyway. So what I've been doing since the 15th of the Ides of March, when the settlement was done, I'm taking a look at it every morning, what came on the market, what active came on the market in the last 24 hours, and what was the compensation spread. What is the buyer broker? What is the seller offering? It's right now in the MLS. It's allowed to be in the MLS. It is going to come out in July. It's going to be decoupled in July, right? But if you take a look at that chart right now, there's majority of them are offering 3 eggs. The second largest number is 2.5 eggs. There's a couple of small 2.75s and 2s. So I'm going to keep a very close track on that and see how that floats out week over week, right? So this pretty much between now and when the formal decoupling happens, I'm going to be looking at this week over week, and let's see where this percentage of eggs starts floating out over time. My prediction is that you're going to probably settle much like the Pacific Northwest did, somewhere around 2 to 2.5 eggs is probably where it's going to.
2 to 2.5 eggs for the buyer's representative?
For the buyer side. Now, you typically double that, and that's going to be the total. It's not always the case, but, in simple math, that's what the total amount of eggs is for the transaction.
So you think the eggs per transaction are going to be 4?
So 4 and 5. 4 and 5, yeah. That's where it's going to be. And I only know that because I took a look at what happened in the Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest decoupled in 2022. They have roughly 40,000 agents in their MLS. They formally, they removed this from their MLS back in those days, back in 2022. And this little thing that sometimes we text and do, you actually use it as a phone.
Oh yeah.
And I called the folks over there and got their numbers for since 2022, and the average is 2.51 percentages of an egg. So it's 2.5% is what the average is since 2022.
Councilor Snook, welcome to the broadcast. You highlighted that since the decoupling of that starts in July. Since the NAR settlement, we've had 2 examples of a flat fee for buyer's representative and 0 compensation offered for buyer's representative.
Yeah, so I promised that I would keep everybody's names anonymous, locations anonymous.
Questions are coming in already.
They've asked me to do this, and I have to respect that. But these were listings that were not on the market yet. They were in the coming soon status. And what had happened which is what we talked about on Wednesday, which is the reason I wanted to bring it up. What happened was they got phone calls from buyer, brokers, agents, and basically said, my seller's not going to see the house unless there's greater compensation than that.
Wait, explain that to me.
So because these buyers' agents had buyer-broker agreements with buyers that talk about how much they're going to get compensated for, right? Had conversations with the listing agents and basically said, okay, we've got to figure out how I'm going to get paid this amount of eggs. Make a very long story short, what I talked about before, those buyers made a decision, this wasn't the agent, the buyers made a decision not to see that house. So because it was zero, because it was a flat fee, the seller told the buyer's agent, I don't want to see that home because I don't want to have to write that check. Let's go see something else. That was communicated with these two agents, and immediately they communicated with their seller and is now at 2 eggs.
John Blair, welcome to the broadcast. Questions coming in on what you're talking about.
I think, look.
Were those buyers, this is a very good question from Jonathan. Keith, were those buyer-broker agreements signed before the listing came to market?
Yes. 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 So look.
He's got a follow-up for you.
If you just do your job, sign your buyer-broker agreement, have your listing agreements together, and this is something I want to talk about a little bit later, definitely with that. You know, the thing that nobody's talking about is how do you guarantee you're going to get paid?
Well, that's what's going to happen Friday with Bill Tucker.
Once it gets decoupled, the seller could just say, you know what, I'm not going to pay it. So how does the buyer's agent now get paid? And we'll talk about that here in a little while. But yeah, so if you do your job, so look, I'm excited about this because what this does is you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to communicate your value proposition to your buyer, to your seller, because this conversation has to happen at the seller level too, which is what this conversation I had with these two listing agents, right? They were like, well, hold it, I now need to have a conversation with my client, go, look, we are now getting showings because we're not paying.
Jonathan, follow-up question for you. Can that buyer-broker agreement be renegotiated?
You can renegotiate. Everything's negotiable. It always can be renegotiated. Both sides have to agree to it. You know, that's what negotiations are. But yeah, buyer-broker agreements can be negotiated. Look, at the end of the day, what this settlement is going to do is require a national, which we've been doing in Virginia since 2012, a national requirement of a buyer-broker agreement. Kudos for us. Should have been a requirement across the country, period, where everything is transparent, everything is communicated, everybody knows who's on first and who's on second. And the second thing is going to have to be, you know, communication. I've talked about this back in September, right? You know, agents are going to have to talk to one another now. They're going to have to do that. This two little microcosm example is exactly what's going to happen down the road. Buyer's agents and seller agents are going to have a conversation. Let's assume tomorrow we're decoupled, right? We're decoupled. I've got a buyer, you're a listing agent, you've got a showing, and my buyer wants to go see your house. The very first thing I'm going to pick up the phone and call you and say, okay, is your seller offering buyer-broker compensation? I can't put it in the MLS. We can't have this conversation in the MLS publicly, but we can have these negotiations. And then the second thing, and then you're going to say, yes, my seller is offering 2.5 eggs. Great. Then I'm going to send you a VAR document that has been in our system since 2019. It's called a residential one-time showing agreement. And I'm going to send this to you, and I'm going to say, I'm bringing this client over. You're guaranteeing me that, and the owner signs it, the broker signs it, and everybody signs it and says that if our contract comes to fruition, you're going to pay me X number of eggs. Thank you very much. Box is checked. And then I'm going to write in a contract, because that's what's in the Pacific Northwest contracts, which we've been talking about. They're going to write in there, it's just very clear as day, who gets paid what, when they get paid.
Jonathan says this: could those buyers who want to see those homes that are not offering buyer broker compensation renegotiate their contract and stipulate that they can see those homes without offering compensation?
So you can renegotiate anything.
No, I know. So that's what he's.
So that is between you and the buyer's agent. And if the two buyer agents, if you negotiate that, that's great. You can go ahead and do that. The buyer's agent might say, look, I'm not going to do that. And that's okay. But
Well, then the buyer then has a choice to make.
then the buyer has it. Well, they both have a choice. So if I'm in an agreement already, they both have a choice to make. It's not a unilateral decision, right? It's both parties, just like any contract. Both parties have to agree to it to amend it.
We also know it's a tight inventory market.
Yeah. So look, you can't get any tighter than Pacific Northwest and Seattle, right? And 92% of all the transactions between 2002 and yesterday had a real estate agent on the other side of it. So nothing's really, they decoupled, and nothing, the way business has been done at the Pacific Northwest has changed, other than what it should have been from freaking day one was transparent, clear, concise. Everybody knows what they were doing. Everybody, like any other profession. So, at the end of the day, those of us who know how to do this for a living will do very well. Those who cannot, there's going to be a sea change.
Oh, I think you got massive attrition coming.
Absolutely.
Massive attrition.
Absolutely. And it'll be a little bumpy for the next 12 to 18 months. But I think eventually it's going to settle out, depending on who you read. Some people say 60%, some people say 30%. I think you're going to be somewhere between those two numbers out that way. How is NAR going to pay for $418 million?
Well, they're going to raise dues.
Well, they only got $90,000 in cash.
90 million.
90 million, excuse
Yeah.
me. 90 million. Thank
Those dues are going to be raised, and then folks are going to have a choice to make whether they want to belong in NAR moving forward.
You know what? It ain't over until it's over, and it ain't over. I'll skip
The
saying
proverbial fat lady is singing.
Yeah. No, it hasn't sung yet.
She's getting ready. She's warming up the vocal cords.
No, this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Worse for NAR.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Because these 100 brokerages that just got left out in the wind, that have to opt into this agreement, if you don't think, watch the news, guys. When these behemoths that got opt out of this agreement, that have to opt in, right? Let's just make sure we got this. If you have more than $2 billion in sales as a brokerage,
There's a time frame. There's a time frame.
in 2022,
Yeah.
right? And what they do is they now take a look at between the last 4 years what your total volume is, and 0.25% of that is what you're going to have to pay to opt in, or you're going to have to mediate with the with the plaintiffs' attorneys at the end of the day, and that's they'll negotiate. And look, the companies. I'm just going to say this out loud. The companies that negotiated settlements before NAR's settlement are sitting pretty. That's your Keller Williams, right? That's your RE/MAX and Anywhere, right? They've negotiated. They're done. They've finished it. Keller Williams set the model of what
Gary Keller
is going to set the model of what this is going to look like, right? Because if you're not the only reason why Berkshire Hathaway is still fighting it.
Deep Throat asked that question because they're sitting on a war chest of money.
They got the cash.
They're sitting on a war chest of
They
money.
got the cash, and they got to fight it.
They got options.
They got to fight it, right? Now, they can mediate it, if they want, but once they start mediating that, then, what they're going to do, just like the settlement for KW, is they're going to take a look at what their liquid assets is, what their cash is. They pretty much split it down the middle and say, that's how much you owe us, and everybody's going to say yes, and sign the document and move on. Oh, by the way,
Caitlin Mancini watching the program.
By the way, there's another lawsuit floating around on the buyer. Lawsuits on the buyer side that nobody's talking about.
I think, the sharps know what's up.
Here's the difference on that one. It has not made it to class action level, and it probably never will. It's very specific to very specific locations on that. So,
We'll congratulate Caitlin on the 2023 Car
Yeah.
Salesperson of the Year.
hey, congratulations, Kate.
Watching the show.
I love her read on this, if she wishes to do it publicly.
From a PR standpoint, the best thing for the industry is to get this out of the news cycle as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the best thing for the industry.
Because when my wife over the dinner table, and she doesn't follow this closely,
Yeah, sure.
is saying, "Did you see this? What the hell is going on here?"
I had 2 conversations with high producing agents since Friday say, I should have not heard this from my grandmother or from my mother. Look,
Ray Cadell, I'll get to your comments here in a matter of moments.
NAR and CAR
You need to get this out of the news cycle.
but it's not. And they're going to have to, I have to be very careful what I say here. They're going to have to really demonstrate what their value proposition is. They should have done this a long time ago, both of them. It's going to change. The thing that, and I've got a bunch of texts about
Well, you've
this.
alluded the value proposition now moving forward is going to be strictly educational.
Yeah, I think that's where this is going to land.
And then the members have to determine if they're willing to pay dues to an educational society when that information is readily available for free on the internet.
So the thing, I've received multiple texts since Wednesday, and anonymously, to ask to bring this up, just to throw this out there. The thing that nobody's talking about, this is the year, Jerry, that Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors and Bright renews their data share agreement. Watch that. Watch how that goes.
Give them the play-by-play on that.
Well, there's
The
no
X's and O's.
There's not too much play-by-play. Both Bright, which is a large regional MLS, and CAR entered into a data share agreement. So that means data goes both ways, right? We can look into there, they can look into us, that kind of thing. You can do business both ways. If that's extended, then that's great. That's going to continue. That data share is going to continue to extend. If they decide not to do that, for whatever reason, I'm not in the room, don't know what the negotiations are, don't want to know what they are. I'm sure that they're working hard at this, but if it should go away, then it's going to be decoupled. There'll be a decoupling of the data between Bright and CAR.
And in that scenario,
Well, it's just going to go back to where it was before, that CAR is going to go ahead and do this. Now, the question that I've been asked is, well, Bright's got a ton of money. Why can't it just come in here and do its own thing? That may or may not happen. Don't know. That's a heavy lift, right? Ramping up into a new marketplace for MLS is an extremely expensive endeavor. It takes a lot of time to go ahead and do that. That's the reason why Bright marries and buys into and does
JV, joint venture.
partners with, I think it's 60-something MLSs. They're the second largest MLS in the United States. So that's why they do that. It also could be maybe somebody's negotiating with them to get a big chunk of change. And then maybe if that happens, CAR just becomes like Fredericksburg or Warrenton, where they're educational and advocacy group, which is a good use, I think a good place for them to be.
Supervisor Jesse Rutherford, hello. Peter Krebs of the PEC, hello. Thank you for joining us. Jason Howard on Rio Road. Cully Baggett, the developer. Welcome to the broadcast. Andre Xavier, thank you kindly for watching the program. Kevin Yancey throwing a little shade to what's happening right here.
Really, Kevin? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
It was a good conversation you and I had the other day, Kevin. I hope I helped.
I don't. Scott Q, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you kindly for joining us on today's talk show. Mr. Ray Cadell has been in the business for, I believe, is it 3 decades plus, Ray?
Oh, yeah. I think he's been in the business from day one.
He says, I have always looked at the real estate market as a ladder. Folks move up and down the rungs. Rung 1 starts it all. First-time home buyers are on rung 1.
Yeah.
Number 1 difficulty for a first-time home buyer, lack of cash. Extra cash lying around to pay their own buyer, broker. Nope. It's the math, stupid. We've highlighted that.
Yeah.
Right now, the first-time home buyer is financing what they're paying their representation. And they're doing that with the 30-year vehicle, which helps them with cash up front. And in some cases, that may or may not be the opportunity if the seller is not willing to include.
You're not. I can assure you,
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, we'll bet a bottle of bourbon on that.
You and I, well, we would need a little bit more criteria on that bet, because
Well,
you can't just say it's not going to happen. You would have to characterize, because we know it's going to happen in some cases.
So what we can say is, by this time last year,
By this time next year,
excuse me, next
Yeah.
year, thank you. By this time next year, will the buyer broker compensation be less than 2.5? More or less, make that the over and under.
but how would you characterize?
How would you track that?
Yeah. How are you going to track that if it's not put in the MLS?
That is true.
Because you can't put it in the MLS anymore, can you?
Well, you can't put it in the public side of it, and that's all the stuff that has to get worked out, right?
So you can put it on the insider's side, but not the public side?
Well, you can do it, like, for instance, right now, if you go ahead and when you put into the MLS a sale, right, Jerry, and if there is a seller compensation, you've got to note that, right? That's on the sold side. So it just helps the data end of it. So there should be some data tracking mechanisms. I don't know what they are at the moment. There's so much work that has to get done on it. I mean, that's a great question for me to reach out to my folks at the Pacific Northwest and go, they have to track it because they gave me the number.
Has anyone on the talk show here watching the show, maybe you, have you taken a deep dive into the Homes.com platform?
Yeah, actually.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah, I actually had dinner in September with the CEO. And
it is, viewers and listeners, if you want it.
It is rolling over Zillow, it's rolling over Realtor.com.
Homes.com crushes Zillow and Realtor.com with data and knowledge and information.
But here's the interesting thing about it, because I know this
It's not even close, folks.
I know this firsthand. They are agent focused. They are agent focused. And that's the huge difference between that and Zillow. They're agent focused. And what they do, because I know this because I'm in negotiations with them, they protect.
They show what agents do what deals and what levels and what thresholds and what price points and how many transactions they've done.
But they protect your listings. So that means, with Zillow, I have to be careful with this because they are a broker. Zillow, pretty much the whole world gets that. You call in on a Zillow lead, if you are one of their premier, whatever the heck you call them, right, you get a phone call. If I put a listing in Homes.com, the only person that gets a phone call on that and the internet is me.
It tells you a phenomenal amount of information about realtors and agents.
But that's not, if you think Homes.com is going to turn into an Orbitz.
Oh, I don't think Homes.com is going to turn into an Orbitz.
No, but we talked about this on the portals, because that's what they call these. The portals are going to rock and roll. And they're doing it. And Homes has been all over it. Like I said, Michael Guthrie, if he's watching, I sat next to the CEOs of Howard Hanna and the CEO of Homes.com and CoStar. They're the same guys, same people. And I mean, they were flat out said, they were investing $1 billion. He announced it at that dinner table, $1 billion in marketing. Henceforth, the Super Bowl.
It was amazing. Viewers and listeners, if you want a platform that's going to give you market knowledge on listings and homes and agents, I would suggest Homes.com.
But the big difference, unless they change it, and they've been pretty solidified on that, the big difference is if I join them as a listing agent, those listings are mine. So when they go out in the world, right, and you call on one of my listings, I get the phone call, not the 12 million other agents that bought into their premium package on Realtor or whatever the other things are, which has a tremendous amount of
Woody
value.
Fincham watching the broadcast.
Hey,
and Woody Fincham has a question that's come in for him. Woody Fincham, we love you. He says, this is a question for you, Woody Fincham, from Ray Cadell. What does your appraiser, Woody Fincham, say about financing the buyer broker fee into the deal?
So Woody and I chatted on the way in. And unfortunately, he can't join us on the 27th because there's a CAR board meeting, which would be a very interesting board meeting to attend. But he'll join us for the 3rd of April and going to kind of chat about this very, very topic.
Do you want to hit that topic?
Yeah, that's something for him to answer. For Woody to answer, because I asked him this question before I came on.
And you want to break down for the viewers and listeners what Ray is alluding to? What does your appraiser Woody say about financing the buyer broker fee into the deal? I'll happily break that down, but you're the star of the program. Talk with. Go ahead, Keith, please.
Yeah, so I think the question that is being asked is what I ultimately think is going to happen with on the federal regulator side for the loan side. They're going to allow buyer broker compensation to be as a seller concession. That's probably how this is all going to shake out. But look, it's no different than if it was a for sale by owner, right? It gets written into the deal. It gets written into the contract. He's an expert. I don't know if they carve out. Actually, I think they do. I think they actually carve out seller concessions, right? Is now, if the compensation is part of a seller concession, will that impact it? This is, at the moment, exact words from Woody this morning before I came into the studio, nothing has changed, or there have been no directives brought down that way. Will that change? I don't know, but I really want him to answer that on the third because he's the expert on it.
Andre Xavier, the entrepreneur and real estate investor watching the program. Andre, I saw the same interview. It's interesting you brought this up. This is for you, Keith, from Andre.
Strawberry didn't work.
The Redfin CEO said yesterday on CNBC that they saw an increase of 15% in one day of home sellers and buyers signing up for their services. He says Redfin has been offering a 1% commission since their inception.
If you take a look at the Redfin's actual average commissions, it's much above 1%. Because what happens is you get X dollars, you get X amount of service for 1%. You want additional service, this whole a la carte thing you've been talking about forever, it starts adding. And you'll find out it gets in there. Oh, by the way, you know where Redfin is the king of? Region? Freaking the Pacific Northwest, that's where it's created. And the average is averaging out at 2.51%.
Sarah Hill Buchensky, the agent side of Homes.com is not as good as the old app, HomeSnap, in my opinion.
I think they're working on it. When they're spending that kind of money, they're working on it.
The user side, the layman side, is probably the most robust platform of knowledge that is out there in real estate right now.
So you have to ask, is she bought in as an agent member into Homes.com? Because I think once you do that, you get different platforms.
Good question for you, SHB. Are you paying to play on Homes.com?
Yeah.
Because you get different tools.
Well,
a la Keith Smith here.
Well, I just know because I'm in discussions with them. What's available to you, what's not available.
You guys have a profile, you and Yona do, on there.
Correct, but that's the freebie everybody gets information. There's a whole nother level. There's a whole new level of data and a whole new level of information that's buried in that you have to pay to play. And we're in the middle of negotiations with them, to be honest with you.
Comments coming in fast and furious.
But they're going to be the 10-ton elephant. I've talked about this on the show some time ago. I think it was back in September and October. Keep an eye on Homes. They're going to be the 10-ton elephant in the room. So the question is,
does Homes.com get in the MLS game?
No, they've clearly said they have no interest in getting in.
And you believe them?
Yeah, I do.
Once they get this kind of scale, they're not going to get in the MLS game?
Why would they do that? They're making a ton of money the way they are.
Okay.
And why would they get into that liability? Why would they even remotely get into that liability?
So
that's insane.
Okay.
Right? No. You're going to, this is what you're going to see. It's already happening. It's been happening. I've been talking about it till I'm blue in the face. You're going to see these multiple, a handful of large regional MLSs. And they're going to, Bright partnered with the California MLS, so they're on both sides of the coast on it. There's a couple other ones, but Bright's number 2 in the country, and you're going to start seeing that. And I've been talking about it since 2022, and you're going to have this massive thing. And part of the reason why a lot of people don't like Bright, let's just get this on the table, they are brutal with their fines. Brutal with their fines.
Put that in perspective.
They're very expensive. You make a mistake and you cross a line.
What are the fines we're talking?
Oh, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, what are the primary reasons for fining?
Well, the big thing that came up on it was the violation of coming soon. It's a $5,000 fine.
Put that in perspective.
We don't have a $5,000 fine.
No, put in perspective the coming soon parameters.
So if you make I don't really want to get too much into that. The bottom line is, if you violate
Show's blowing up, right?
if you're in Bright and you violate the coming soon rules that Bright has established, the fine is $5,000. It's huge. So that's what'll happen.
What's the fine and the opposition to Bright? Say the local one. We got a $50 fine?
Yeah, I don't remember the number, to be honest with you. I know it's not 5,000. Let's put it that way.
Is it reason? I'll stop. Woody Fincham.
You're stopping. Look at that.
Woody Fincham here. Woody Fincham. The show's on fire.
I know
in response to Ray Cadell, that is a really interesting question. Ray's question. What does appraiser Woody Fincham say about financing the buyer broker fee into the deal? Woody Fincham responds, that is a really interesting question. The bottom line is that the value of the property will always be the value of the property. The cost to facilitate a transaction is not considered in the value of the property. Appraisers have never considered commissions when valuing property. Now, that does not mean that something will not change. There are several of us nationally, sort of like a think tank, that have been watching this and discussing it.
Yeah. So the reason
I think he means think tank instead of think tank.
It could be the same. So
thank you, Woody, for that comment.
Thank you, Woody, and it's glad to hear you feeling better.
We love you, Woody Finch.
Very much so. Every conversation I have with him, I come out a little bit smarter, but my bar's kind of low on that smart stuff. So look, all this stuff is going to be vetted through. The two keys that keep on coming back to is there kind of was a lack of transparency. I can't help think of the movie Wizard of Oz, right? When the curtain gets pulled back, right? And the part when Dorothy always had the power to go home. We've always had the power to fix this and get in front of this. It took a lawsuit to get there, right? This is going to be excellent for the industry, in my opinion. This is going to be excellent for the consumer. Transparency is key. The second thing is communication. We are now, and I keep on saying it, you're going to have to be a communication expert. So, the unicorn years, again, back to us doing this to ourselves.
You guys did this to yourselves with the unicorn years.
Yeah, I mean, my God, agents sending, I just sold a house in 13 seconds.
Dude, the
what the hell did you expect was going to happen?
The Netflix and Bravo shows that have models and actors running around on streaming platforms.
I turned down many
driving $250,000 cars.
I turned opportunities down.
Barely working and
said my hair
talking about
wasn't
how
good.
they're selling millions of dollars of homes without doing any work whatsoever. Caused this.
What the F? What were you thinking?
Caused this.
What were you thinking? You thought this was not going to happen? But look, it's okay. This is okay.
Selling Sunset, I'm talking to you.
To
$1 million listing, LA, New York, Miami, I'm talking to you.
Everybody needs to take a deep breath, right? The pros are going to float to the top, right? The ones that have always been transparent are going to float to the top. The ones that have always been able to communicate with their clients, both buyers and sellers.
Dude, Carly Wagner's spitting fire right now.
Of course she will.
Are you ready for this?
No,
I think we need to get ready for this.
I was in the middle of a monologue. You interrupted my monologue
Wagner.
again. You interrupted my monologue.
This might be worth it.
Go ahead.
I got a developer watching the program who's ready to speak here. First, I'm going to get to Carly Wagner. And Carly Wagner has a little bit of freedom here because she makes her living as an engineer.
Yeah,
she's also a realtor.
Yeah,
Carly.
Look,
she says compare, and she's talking about Bright, the $5,000 fee for coming soon.
Let's hit the pause button for a second.
Sure.
What are we doing here?
Having honest, transparent conversation.
We're just talking.
That needs to happen.
We're talking the truth. We need to be respectful, right? And never remember the old 3 rules, right? No divisive politics. No throwing anybody under the bus. No, I got it. Well, I'm just doing this for everybody on that, and let's have a little bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
So let me have it.
Well, it's not directed to you.
I know that, but I want to respond to it.
Yeah. She's speaking in comparison. She's comparing what Carr does with Bright. $5,000 fine for coming soon violations. She says with Carr, the first offense is a verbal warning.
Yeah.
and then the fine is $75.
Yeah, I wasn't going to be the one to say that. So
Well, I said 50. So it's
You were
actually
close.
75.
You were
Yeah,
close.
I mean, I had an idea what it was. So the agents are still incentivized to ignore the rules of clear cooperation and keep the full commission, both sides, inside the brokerage and use the beautiful products to bolster their brokerage. And these are the rules that are violated left and right, she says. CAR is such an agent protective association, she says, not consumer focused in the least, she says.
yeah. So the question,
Those are her words, not mine.
Yeah. No. So thank you, Carly. I honestly couldn't remember the number, so thank you for reminding me.
And she says, full disclosure, my realtor income has been about the same as my very passive real estate income over the past 2 years. But Jerry is right. I don't rely on real estate income nor engineering income for that matter, so I can speak freely.
Well, you should be able to speak freely, period. Right?
Carly really speaks freely.
Yeah,
Carly,
yeah,
you make the shows better. I sincerely mean that. I think you know I sincerely mean that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can't be honest, and what's this word I keep on using? Transparent. If we can't be transparent with each other, nevertheless with everybody, transparency is the key here. Transparency, 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 transparency. It's the same thing you're going to teach your kids, same thing I taught my kids, the same thing Carly's teaching her kids. Be transparent and be honest. But back to my Wizard of Oz analogy, which I thought was genius. But
You want to respond to those comments?
with Carly,
Yeah.
no, she's spot on. She's right. She just echoed my point. Bright is a private entity. It's a for-profit company that has really strict rules and fines. Because it wants to protect its profit. It wants to protect its property. It wants to protect its business model. And to have people violating its rules out there doesn't help it. It is unforgiving about these mistakes. When somebody, not mistakes, they could be mistakes, but when somebody violates a rule, right? They come after you.
Give them the benefit of the doubt right there.
People, look, we've been talking for how long? 40 minutes, 45 minutes, almost an hour? I guarantee you I probably made 4 dozen mistakes, right? I'm pretty sure I have.
Catherine Lackner, welcome to the program. Liza Borges, welcome to the program. Thank you kindly for watching the show. Kevin Yancey still watching. Cully, Philip Dow,
back on
Holly
Liza,
Foster.
I
got comments galore.
It's very interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with an agent who I'll leave this one alone. We'll save this for Wednesday. No, because this is really not topic related. It's about buyer. Oh God, help me out, Smith. Help me out, Miller. Seller financing. And this was somebody that was in the car industry that didn't realize that they couldn't do seller financing unless they paid off their principal mortgage first.
What?
Yeah, it was a competitor to her organization. But
Jesus, that's
was
terrifying.
I was like, whoa.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
DJ Morberly, Moberly, Inspired Homes. Sellers, this is in response to Woody and Ray Cadell. Sellers have been packing standard realtor fees into the sales price forever. It doesn't matter if appraisers acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, so what'll happen, appraisal systems are going to have to change. What'll happen is exactly what's happening at the Pacific Northwest. All we got to do is look at what's already happened, right? I've been saying this till I'm blue in my face. You will, real estate agents out there, you will have to write in how you're getting paid into the contract. You will have to have some version of residential one-time showing agreement where everybody agrees on how you're going to get paid. It is going to be rolled into the contract. It's going to hit the table. Now, all that means is that it's going to have to appraise, right? It's going to have to appraise. That's a whole different kettle of fish, and we're going to talk about that next week with Woody on what that looks like and how that goes. But it's going to have to appraise. We're going to find out on the 29th when we talk to Bill Tucker. It ends up on the seller side of the transaction. Thank you very much, and it moves on.
Multiple
I'm working-
comments coming in from an anonymity standpoint.
Hang on a second. I'm working on bringing in some loan officers to talk about what does it look like from their perspective. So we will continue this going on for the next couple of few shows for sure.
This from
And I want to have fun.
agent looking for anonymity. A lot of us agents cannot talk freely about this issue publicly right now because the cases are not settled, and it is so frustrating.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Another agent offers this program.
So I got to understand why. I'm doing it. Why? Tell me why you can't talk about this freely.
If you want to answer,
Is there
agent,
a
if you
rule?
want to answer Keith's question to that and you respond to me, I will also respect your anonymity
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
answer as well.
That's
Another anonymous agent
So-
here.
so let me
a
get-
lot of us agents, or excuse me, this is exactly what he writes.
My
A lot of
question
us
was,
in the business cannot speak like Keith's speaking right now because our brokers won't let us.
okay. Again, I'll ask the rhetorical question, why? I don't get it.
This from Woody Fincham. What will be interesting is to see how this affects FHA.
So is he trying to say I don't have a broker that oversees me? I've got two. I got three, actually.
He's just saying his broker won't let him. All circumstances are different.
Well, then you need to rethink where you're at.
Keeps doing some recruiting on the
sorry.
talk show right now.
I'm sorry. I forget people are watching.
Doing some recruiting. This from Mr.
No, I'm not. But you know,
You got a boatload of agents watching.
speaking the truth is never a bad thing. I don't care who the hell you are.
This is from Mr. Fincham. What will be interesting is to see how this affects FHA, RD,
Yeah.
and VA transactions.
That is a legitimate. So let's get off.
That's where clients that absolutely need buyer representation and they have no extra money, I think it will come down to good negotiators.
So he's spot on. So I'm continuing my conversations with the Pacific Northwest to talk about how that actually worked. How's that going to work? But you're 100% right. That's the comment I made, that you're going to start to see you're going to see somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I can't keep up right now.
I
What's
think,
going on?
I think you're going to see somewhere,
I can't
somewhere, it's okay.
There's so
Somewhere,
many comments.
thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Somewhere between now and July, you're going to start seeing stuff, the documents changing. You're going to start seeing regulatory changes. You know, it's been done in a couple of small places. New York City, by the way, did it on January 1. They decoupled on January 1 because they had their own private little MLS it's the city of New York in it, right? They have contracts. They have how this all works. Pacific Northwest did it in 2022. They have, how that's going to do. So people are going to start looking at that, but regulators are going to start doing it. The question is, for the professionals out there, what do you do now? And that, back to the broker question, that's when you start talking to your broker. Okay, guys or gals, what do I do now? Those conversations should be happening, and I'm sure that they are.
Ray Cadell, I'm putting 6 investment properties on the market today for 2 separate clients. Still not sure what the F to tell my colleagues ahead of time and in writing and how. I'm putting
F means fantastic?
I'm putting 6 investment properties on the market today for 2 separate clients, he says. I'm still not WTF, the F, sure to tell my colleagues
What the fantastic?
ahead of time and in writing and how.
Yeah. So which
And that's a broker.
Yeah, I got it. He's talking about the seller. Have him clarify that. Talking to tell his seller clients, or the broker or the agents that are calling him. I need a little clarity on
FUD
that.
guy watching the program right now. FUD guy, this is quite a time for you to just obtain his real estate license. In a nutshell, what exactly just happened? I just obtained my Virginia Realtor license, but haven't done anything with it.
So
as of
he's in a
yet.
great spot.
I'm just tuning in.
He's in a great spot. Right. He's in a great spot because he's going to learn going forward.
Matt Hines watching the program. I'm loving this show.
It's the ones like.
The ones that, old dogs that are in bad habits are in some trouble here because it's tough to teach an old dog new tricks.
You just called me an old dog?
That's basically what he's saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're putting words in my mouth.
No, you're
That's
basically saying a lot of folks have bad habits and it's going to be tough to retrain them out of them. That's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is this is why I think what you're going to see carve out is the agents that have been in the business for a while.
I'm going to say, I don't want to deal with this change. I'm peacing out.
Of a certain age. They were really close to retirement anyway. You're going to start seeing, I believe the average age is 57 in car. I may have that number wrong, of a real estate agent. And you're also going to see the agents that came in the unicorn years doing what the F.
Yeah.
Because they got used to, this fallacy that this wasn't difficult. This job is hard.
Thought guy, he's saying you're in a great spot because you haven't developed any bad habits yet. That's what he's alluding to.
Yeah, you haven't. Well, you only know what you know at this point forward. You don't know what you know because you haven't been in it for 3.5 decades.
I'm not as bullish as Keith about entering the profession right now, just for the record.
No, that's not what I said. What I said, if you're getting into the profession now, you're starting from this point going forward. This is not new to you. This is the reality to you right now. If you decide to stay in the business, and that's a different story on that. And Ray says it's my friendly colleague agents. I've been all over this with his sellers. Got it. Yeah. So the question is he going to offer any eggs to the buyer's agent? We've, by the way, been allowed in car to offer 0 eggs for quite some time now. It just hasn't.
It's never happened.
It never happened because
the houses wouldn't be shown.
Because the buyer so to answer Ray's question, if I have a buyer for Runaway's properties, I have a buyer broker agreement with my buyer. Clearly stipulates how I'm going to get paid. And it also clearly stipulates that if the Ray isn't offering me any eggs, that they're going to have to pay it. Then we're going to have the tough conversation, and that's where you're going to lose agents because they don't want to have this. The tough conversation with my client, my buyer client, go, look, this is where we're at. What do you want to do? You explain the circumstance to them. They're, very clear, very transparently. This is what your options are before you right now. And then you have a discussion with your client. What I'm so excited about what's happening right now is people are going to have to freaking talk to one another. This goddamn... Oh, sorry. I'm getting a little worked up. No, this gets me a little worked up.
I like it.
This thing I hold... Sorry about that, Lord.
Judah's laughing.
Sorry about that, Lord. That's the first time I've ever done that in 605 shows. So my apologies to everybody. I'm not very proud of myself right now.
It's okay.
Because I try to be a professional and that slipped out.
You're passionate. It's okay. It's okay.
But this thing I hold in my hand is iPhone. It actually is a phone. Let's call it like it is. Some agents won't pick up the phone and talk to you. Guess what they're going to have to do now? Now, Ray's not one of them. If I got a buyer for one of Ray's properties and whatever eggs he's offering, and if those eggs are acceptable to me and acceptable to my client, we move on. If those eggs are not, then I'm going to pick up the phone let's assume there's 0 eggs. I don't know what he's going to do, but let's assume it's 0.
How many eggs, Ray? How many eggs?
I don't want to put him on the spot.
Okay.
On that.
But we're going to know anyway.
Yeah, eventually. But let's just call it 0 eggs, right? Now I'm going to pick up the phone and go, okay, we've got to negotiate this. And Ray will answer my phone call.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Some agents out there won't.
They prefer text.
Well, they prefer... to hide behind this thing called an iPhone and a laptop and an email. You're going to need to talk to me now. And I'm really good at what I do. And you're going to have to negotiate with me, and we're going to have a conversation on it. If not, my buyer isn't going to look at your house because they don't have the money to pay for it.
How about this scenario from right around the corner, North Downtown?
My apologies again to everybody. That was
what if the buyer has the money? What if the buyer has the money to pay for a listing and the seller's not offering any eggs? What if the buyer has the money to pay?
What's my agreement I have? So in my agreement, it's
going to be the percentage that's in the agreement. So the buyer's going to have to come up with
the buyer
potentially 2% of the transaction,
or whatever it is. You're my buyer. I've sat down with you, told you what I do, how I do it. This is what I get paid.
So if it's an $800,000 transaction, guys, and you got a 2% agreement, the buyer would have to come up with $16K.
Or I do my job and I negotiate with the seller, and either try to get them to include that in it. Because ultimately, from the seller's perspective, I've got a buyer who can't write that check, even at $800,000. We're not going to write a deal on your house. That's what's going to happen. Period. And then the seller and the seller's agent is going to have to decide, well, I'm okay with that. And that's fine. Now that buyer just goes someplace else. Now, where that someplace else is a different story. But I'm talking about the practical day-to-day approach of this. And that's what's going to happen. That's the reason why in the Pacific Northwest, the average buyer broker is 2.51%. By the way, the home of Redfin in the 1% world. So I'm telling you, it's ultimately going to get to that point. You're spot on. How is it going to get tracked is yet to be determined. Who knows? Homes might say, okay, we're going to track this. How they track it, I don't know.
Thomas watching the program. He's watching it in Richmond. Ooh. Another interesting wrinkle. It's fine. Another interesting wrinkle. You got that 11:45 check pickup over there, J-Dubs.
And I've got a nap here at 12 o'clock.
Another interesting wrinkle from Thomas in Richmond is Redfin is about to roll out nearly a 9-figure campaign to promote what they offer.
Look, these type of scenarios have always been in the market. It's going to be a matter of me or whoever is a full-service agent negotiate my position. And if you are unwilling as a buyer not to pay what my fee is for that, that's okay. That's
SHB, Sarah Hill Buchensky, she's in the game. What would keep the buyer and the seller from agreeing to X out? Let me read this exactly. What would keep the buyer and the seller from agreeing to X out the commission in the contract? Agent is not a party to the contract. Will there be contract changes?
The answer is that yes. Just like
break down what you're saying there.
Yeah. So she's kind of hitting on the two things I've been trying to talk about. One is what happens if the seller decides not to pay at the closing table. How do you get compensated? And the only way you can get compensated is right now we've got a form. Before I show your house, I want you to sign this document. This document the owners and the broker signed that says we're going to pay X number of eggs if I bring a client to buy the house. The owner may or may not sign that. The second part of it is just if you pull, I literally got the contract here. If you pull out the Pacific Northwest contract, there's a half a page that talks about how the buyer broker's paid, what's the amount, and when it's going to get paid. So once it gets buried into the contract, and oh, by the way, the broker, both sides of the broker sign that contract. So you've got all the parties signing it. But Sarah, the contract from VAR, Virginia Realtors, will have to change. The individual brokerages, I'm assuming, we'll go ahead and have some amendments. I know that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting it, if the decoupling happens today, right now it's in the MLS. It's going to be there till July. But let's say today it was at 0. There's all kinds of amendments and so forth and so on that we're working on that is going to be inserted into the agreements where all the parties sign.
Tim Carson, Vice President, Real Estate 3, watching the program.
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
Ray Cadell, I'm uncomfortable even discussing this with colleagues or even Carr. I'm kind of walking along the antitrust line.
I don't quite understand that, but that's okay.
I think he's talking about the eggs.
Yeah, that's the reason I got emails and texts and stuff like that we need to kind of stay.
I mean, explain how a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, the first conversation they can have is about how they're each going to get compensated. And it not fall under the category of what Ray's talking about, antitrust.
So it's individual negotiations. There's a difference. So what antitrust is, what he's alluding to is that it's a collusion of more than a group of people to set some sort of rate. And I'm comfortable. I've not said that or crossed that line or whatever. I'm just telling you where I think it's going to settle. There's a very different conversation, very different statement. This is a matter of negotiations. It's always been a matter of negotiations. And this is going to be, if he, and that's his comment. That's the reason why I wanted to push back, in This is unfair to him to ask him to talk about this publicly. But whatever he offers, it doesn't matter. 1 chicken, 2 chickens, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if it's not comparable to what I have a buyer-broker agreement on, my buyer's going to pay me in chickens, that's when the discussion has to happen amongst the parties that are involved in the transaction. That's called negotiations. And that's what we do for a living. Let me see, have I been fired yet?
Jennifer.
Oh, look at that.
Jennifer, she says this.
Nope.
This show from start to finish has been absolute fire. Well done, gentlemen.
Oh, don't ever call me a gentleman, but thank you.
Watching the show right now. It's been fantastic.
Yeah,
It's been absolutely fantastic.
I'm trying to see if I've
a little
been
bit of
fired.
energy, a little bit of pushback,
And a little bit of
chitter chatter.
yeah, and I dropped the word I should not have dropped.
Catholic in you, the guilt is tangible and palpable.
Oh God, I'm going to
We
confession.
have forgiven you, my son. You're forgiven in
I'm going to confession twice on Sunday.
the eyes of the Savior.
I'm going to confession twice. The one that I was going to do, and now an extra one in it.
Any closing thoughts for your fans?
No,
The viewers and listeners.
No, look.
Real Talk with Keith Smith online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. This is a mastermind from start to finish on how to navigate what's coming for sellers, for buyers, and for those that are in the industry.
And please don't forget to pull down the partner tab. And if you like what you're hearing, or don't like what you're hearing, but at least you're tuning in, please support those partners, because without them, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Look. At the end of the day, transparency is key, communication is key, and as long as we focus on those two things, and if you are in this line of work and you focus on those two things, you'll do well. But you also, there's a third component to it. I know we're over, Jerry, so thank you. There's a third component to this. I was asked the question this morning, how come I know all about this crap? It's because I've been reading about it forever. I took the time to educate myself. I'm not, by any way, shape, or form, I'm no soothsayer, I'm no anything. I just knew that we were going to end up where we are today. We will be decoupled. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And that conversation has been going on. And I've had conversations with very respectable brokers that's been in the business for a while that this caught them off guard. And I go, how is that possible?
Well, you got to listen to Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Well, and,
Beth Dunlop Marcus, who I believe is looking for a nice little house, watching the program and giving you some props
Thank you.
on the talk show.
Thank you. I'm just trying to be transparent and truthful and be who I am. I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be truthful to me. I'm who I am. This is what you get.
I like it. And that's what life is all about. That's how you sleep easy at night.
I wish I could, but that's an age thing. That's got nothing to do with anything other than that.
Well
Have
done.
a great show today.
Thank you.
In the afternoon. Thank you.
Keith Smith, Judah Wickhauer. Actually, for those that are watching the program, no I Love Seville show today. Got a business brokerage closing, and we're signing the papers at 12:30 p.m.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Working on this deal since November.
Oh, well, anybody who thinks commercial transactions
12:30 p.m. today.
you think they're easier than residential, you are mistaken. I'm about ready to close a couple of big deals that I've been working on 4 years.
Keith, Judah, Jerry,
3
realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, online wherever you get your podcasting content. I would very much encourage anyone in the game to watch and listen to this show from start to finish. Thank you for joining us on a glorious and gorgeous Friday in Charlottesville. We're in downtown. Yes Realty Partners, Keith and Yona Smith shop. Yes Realty Partners, a name you can trust. Enjoy the weekend. So long.
Bye, everybody. 10-miler on tomorrow. Yona's running it. Wish her luck.
10 mile. Good luck.
Phew, got that in under the wire.